They were very nice looking. One had green eyes, the other one had blue eyes, and very,
women, is that
very handsome. I remember them being very handsome.
Yeah, that's nice.
What I know about my grandparents is that he was a very jealous man. My grandma's husband, my mother's mother, very jealous man. Very, very jealous and quick temper. I think that part of my mother's character. My grandmother, my mother's mother, was a very sweet lady, and she loved us a lot.
Did you see closer to?
Me? To my mother or my father? Oh, my father. I thought my father was an angel, well educated.
What did he do in his life?
When he was studying to be a priest. He got married when he was 24. But then he met a girl that he loved, you know, and then he wanted to give it up. See, long ago, the parents were very proud if your children become part of the church or priest or whatever. So he disappointed them, you know. He was in love with this girl. He wanted to marry her. But parents were very strict, and you didn't make choice. They did it for you. That's the way they were brought up in Mexico. So my father got very disappointed with them, you know, especially with his father. So his father said, "I think you should go and live in the United States. So you forget about this girl." Well, anyway, he made an arrangement with this girl and told her that his father was going to send him over here on this side. So he arranged to meet her over here, and then they would get married because she was over 18 or something, I don't know. Well, anyway, my grandfather brought him. He thought that he was just going to put him in the train and he was going to come across by himself. No, he brought him all the way to San Antonio, close to San Antonio. And then he said, "From now on, if you meet a girl you want to marry, that you want to marry her, you let us know, and we'll send you everything from the dress to everything. But you're not going to marry that other girl," that you said. So my father, he lived maybe about 2 years by himself, you know, with a family, but and then my father met my mother. You know, my mother was 14, so he felt lonely, and you know, he felt real bad. So he married her, my mother. But my mother was very young, 14. She was just 14. He took care of all those men, gave orders and all of that. He stayed there for a long time. That's when he married my daughter. That's when he met my mother, in that ranch. And they had 14 children, and I'm one of them. My father always talked about this girl. It made me feel bad. Sometimes I felt jealous because there was my mother, but my mother didn't bother her, you know. He always talked how much he loved this girl, and he always regret that his father, he seemed to, like he never forgot his father for doing that to him, you know. When they were married about 12 years, he went back to see his father. His mother had passed away. He didn't go because he had too many children. He couldn't get away, you know. Well, anyway, he went to see my grandfather. I think they had about 6 children by that time. No more, because I was only a year old then. And they were there 3 days, and they caught what they call the smallpox. And that's where my mother lost 2 of her children there and left them there. You know, they buried them. It was very hard because my uncle, my daddy's father, was a doctor. Well, he was studying, he was young, he was studying to be a doctor. And my mother said that they always had to move around and hide, because if they knew you had that small, you know, that disease or whatever you call it, they'd come after you and take you to the mountains way out there for you to, just to die, I guess, you know. So my uncle knew every time they moved, every time they knew, you know, something about somebody, some family had a smallpox. Well, he kept my dad in touch, you know, where to go, and they stayed here and there. And it was awful, because they went through a lot. They went, sometimes when they would travel, they went hungry, or when they got in the train, you know. I remember my daddy saying that one of the little boys, my little brothers, they were 3 or 4 or something. My daddy would carry him like a little baby that couldn't walk, you know, but just to cover him up. And they were, for many, I think she said for many months to them, they had to hide all the time, because they were carrying that smallpox. In fact, my sister, you remember my sister Eva? Well, she's got her, well, and then...
She had smallpox?
Smallpox. Over there, my grandfather had sort of like a furniture store or something. And somebody came in and said if he wanted to buy an old mattress. It was a nice mattress, but it looked clean and everything. And so my grandfather thought that well, we need an extra mattress, you know. That was in the old days, you know. And so he bought that mattress. So, because there were so many kids, us, you know. So they slept that night on that mattress. And then next day, they all had a lot of fever or something. And my mother said she remembers that the mattress had a little spot like eye dye or something real dark. But they didn't pay much attention to it. They didn't think nothing of it, you know. Although they knew that the smallpox were, you know. Well, the next day they got real sick, and they had the smallpox. The first ones that lay down on that mattress, they passed away.
Oh, really?
My mother never wanted to go back to Mexico, never. That was the last time she went to Mexico. My daddy went, but she didn't. We used to live in what was it, Castroville? It's just a little town next to it. They had a big store where my father worked there for about 3 or 4 years. He was a bookkeeper. He used to bring us $8 worth of groceries and $12 a week. My daddy got paid then. We were doing all right there. My daddy made a fair. He was good at everything, you know.
Sure.
Whatever. He worked real hard for us. We had bought, they had a house built, they bought a house, my mother and my father. And I remember we lived very quiet and very happy there. And then there came the Depression. I guess I must have been 8 or 9, I don't quite remember. So we lost the house. We had it built, that house. It was real nice. We used to see, that Lady of the Lake University, you could see it way out there. It was so pretty, you know. But I remember losing our house. But then when it got a little better over that, you know, we went back, we bought it back, bought the house back. And we used to, since we were a big family, we were what you call relief. That's what they call it at the time. They used to give you, I think, sugar and some kind of cans with meat and cheese, something like that. I was during the Depression, you know. It was a sad time.
Sure.
I remember